been a while since I had this get up. I was just saying to Carla that normally I'm working around like a corset because we often, even though it's live theater, we have to wear these now, which is very strange because back in the day you used to be able to project and that would have been enough. But now for some reason they assume that actors need this. So it's been a minute since I had one of these on, and it's very strange not to have this attached to a costume, to have it attached to my street clothes. I'm gonna tweak this because that's in my way. It looks like an insect. So can you still hear me okay? Yes. Okay. Um, I'm really excited to be here. I'm Laura Wayth. Please don't call me professor. You can call me Laura. That just makes more sense. And I'm really excited to be here. I'm an actor. I like to call myself a recovering actor because it is no longer the way I make my living. And I'm very grateful that I make my living as a professor, not as an actor, because it's a very hard life. I'm going to give you some caveats. The number one thing is I am not a lecturer. I'm going to do my darndest to lecture, but you're going to find me, and this is also for the folks on Zoom, I'm going to talk to you because all I know how to do is talk to other people, because even when you're a director in the theater, you're drawing on the brain power and the talent of the people in the room. I don't know how to do it when it's just me because I think I might bore myself, okay? So I'm going to treat myself like a director in this room, meaning I'm going to draw from your insight and from your wisdom, but I'm also going to kind of shape the conversation so that I'm directing the room. Does that make sense? And for the folks on Zoom who are joining us, I'm really happy that you're here. And I know that it's not quite as participatory for you because you're not here live in the room, but please feel free to offer insights in the chat, to ask questions in the chat, and I'm going to try to address everything that I can that way. So my first question is, everyone here has had a rich and interesting professional and personal life, because you're in San Francisco, and I'm sure you've come from other places. Is anyone in this room a performer in their previous life, or maybe even currently? Fantastic. Are you an actor or you're a fantastic? So you're going to be, you and I are going to have an interesting time. So anybody else? Okay, so since I have to be really honest now because I have another colleague in the room, and I have to preface everything that I say with this. There are many ways to be an actor, and there are many schools of thought on how to train an actor. As a little bit of a background, do you all remember that show Inside the Actors Studio? Yes. With James Lipton? Okay. My first graduate program was that graduate program. You know how they had all those people in the audience who asked questions and they only put the pretty ones on camera and all of that. Bradley Cooper was one of those pretty ones. He was in my class. So that is a program that trains in a very different way. That is a method acting program, meaning, if you're not familiar with the term, meaning it's an offshoot of Stanislavski from Russia that came to America. I won't do all that background. But the idea behind method acting is that the actor needs to emotionally recall an experience in order to be believable on stage. And there are many film actors that work that way. If you know about like Daniel Day-Lewis, when he was on set, he made everybody call him Mr. Lincoln. That's a very specific way of working. And what happened was, and are you trained in method or are you trained in something else? Both. Both. Okay, so good. We're going to get along. So I went to that program. I trained as a method actor. It was very interesting. And one day, it was a beautiful sunny day in New York. And I went down into this ugly, ugly basement that smelled like mildew for my training. And I came in late, so class had already started, and everybody was crying. And I just remember going, it's a gorgeous sunny day in New York. What am I doing with my life? This is unhealthy. And I lasted a few more months at that program. And then I went, this is not the training that I want. And I left that program, and then I went to the American Repertory Theater at Harvard University to do my training in something that is completely opposite method acting, which is action-based acting, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Now you're here going, Laura, I don't want to be an actor. I want to learn about script analysis. The basis for all acting, in my estimation, again, different acting teachers are going to tell you different things, is the script. Everything starts with the script. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So it's the actor in the script an insider's guide. I am the insider because I'm an actor and I'm a director. And I also recently wrote a book for Nick Hearn Books in the UK on script analysis. You can go to Amazon and find it. It's a quick read. It might actually complement what's going on in class if you're interested. If you don't have time to do that, no problem. I'm going to cover the basics here. Okay, this is where I'm going to kick it out to you already. What makes acting great? And again, I'm looking at the script, but I'm looking at it all through the lens of coming in as an actor, and the script comes back to the actor and shapes everything that the actor does. What makes good acting good acting? I'm throwing this out to anybody. And friends on the, oh, there's stuff happening on the chat already.
Sorry, professors, that's just a little bit of technical trouble by the students.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah.
I'm a postage stamp to those on Zoom. I guess I'm really small in real life, okay? So I'm not much bigger in real life. But the question is, what about improv? Oh, improv's a whole other thing because improv doesn't have a script. Improv is improvisation, meaning the actors are making it up on the spot. Oh, okay, this is all about technical stuff about how small I am, okay? You can all say, she's really that small in person. Yes, please, in the back.
I was going to say what makes great acting great is emotional connection.
Emotional connection. Okay, this is already so interesting. Where does emotional connection come from? Yeah. You name it. From life, but okay. But here, let's have a couple more ideas because this is a really, really interesting idea. Like all good ideas can either lead us to a really good place or lead us down a rabbit hole we don't want to go down. I got one and I got two.
Appearing to be authentic.
Appearing to be authentic. The definition that we have for acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. So yes, I have to look authentic in that because the minute I don't look authentic, what happens to your experience as an audience?
Right.
Yeah.
You're back in your seat.
You're back in your seat and the magic is gone. And once I'm gone as an audience member, it's very hard to get me back, right? And we've all had those moments when we've seen, oh, I mean, this happens to me because I see a lot of bad theater. I also see good theater, but I'm sure you've seen it. The production where somebody's supposed to be drinking coffee and then all of a sudden it's supposed to be hot coffee and they start doing this with the mug and you're out. Raise your hand if you've seen a play with bad dialect in it. Like bad British accent. Bad. What happens to you when you hear the bad accent?
You're mentally.
You're gone.
It in your head.
You are, because you have the skill to do that, right? I think that other folks might do that if they're sensitive to language, but you know that something's not right, for sure, and you pop out. More thoughts about what makes it good? I saw, yes, please.
I think it's identifying individually with something that touches you,
Yes.
which is emotion, you know, it's all connected.
Yes. I'm going to put a pin in this idea of emotion and we're going to keep talking about that. Yeah.
I was just going to say that about identification. Do you actually think that's necessary?
You're already asking all the interesting questions. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
May I make a request, please? A tiny bit louder.
I have very rarely in my life been asked. Yes, I will try.
Don't want to miss a word.
I love that. What if I do this? Is that better? Can you hear more when I do this?
That's fine. What did this lovely lady say? Say, dear friend.
I said, is identification
Okay.
necessary?
Yes. Okay. I have never in my life been asked to be louder. I've always been asked to be quieter. So this is a very flattering first for me. Okay, I want to hold on to all of these things because I'm going to posit that we as actors do not need to deeply emotionally connect in order for an audience to believe that we are. And this is the difference between method acting and action-based acting, which is what I work in, and we'll talk more about that. So any other thoughts on what makes acting great? Yes.
I think there's a physical aspect to portraying the role as well.
Yes.
That has to come in for believability.
Yes. Right. And I'm just going to parrot that back in case we're missing it, that there's a physical aspect to being an actor. And if I'm playing King Lear and I'm walking around like myself in my 1-inch heels here, nobody's going to believe that. Right? That you have to physically become another character, and different characters move differently. They have different centers of gravity, right? So these are all the things that we need to be really, really cognizant of as actors. For what I'm going to be talking about, though, it's all going to come from the script. So even those physical choices that we're making, everything is going to come from the script. Oh, I like this little clicker thing. So how do we begin? Okay, I'm going to tell you the thing that terrifies me the most. What absolutely terrifies me, oh look, I have closed captioning too. This is so interesting. I better not swear. I swear a lot when I teach, so I'm not going to do that because there's going to be like, it's all going to pop up on a screen and be recorded forever. I'm not used to all this technology. The most terrifying thing for me as an actor or as a director is when I get a new script. I don't know what to do. I'm sure that you've had experiences in your life of being handed something brand new, and like any kind of project that you've all had for your work life, your personal life, and where do I start? Raise your hand if you've had that thing of where do I even start? Yes, and I would imagine in some ways, under most circumstances, that is your life that you're starting. Picture that and then going, I don't even know where to start, and this is me as the actor, and I have to be this whole other person. I don't even know how to start that. Picture me as the director, which is even more scary, going, I am in charge of all of these other make-believe people to create this make-believe world that real people are going to see and have to believe. It's terrifying. But everything comes from the script. What kinds of information do you think an actor looks for when they first get a script? Yeah.
Why am I here? What's my, how old am I? How young am I?
Have you done this before? This doesn't sound like your first rodeo.
Well, I mean, when you said before
Yeah.
about reading something cold and trying to figure out what's the context here.
What's the
Who are-
context?
Who are me? Who am I for these people?
Exactly. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Who are we? What is this world? What are my relationships? I'm going to go into this in depth in a minute. But what are we doing here? Even more than that, what else?
What do I want?
What do I want? It sounds like you've all dipped your toe into this before, at least, right? What do I want? Because I'm going to speak in the language of plays a lot, but transfer that to film, to television, to whatever it is. I'm going to say plays because my home is the theater. I work in film, I work in television, I work with actors who work in those mediums. But my first home and my first love is the theater. So you're going to hear me speak in the language of the theater a lot. So speaking in the language of the theater, what are plays about?
The universe.
The universe, right? But is it about things going smoothly?
Hmm.
Conflict. Plays, film, TV, it's about problems. It's about problems that need to be overcome. Whenever I'm teaching acting, the first thing that I talk about, and this is because it speaks to my students, because most of my students are 18 to 25, right? I also work with, Broadway actors and other people in the profession. But I like to speak to students in the language that they like to speak in, and they love action movies. So I tend to speak about these concepts in terms of action movies because action movies have really, really clear conflict, clear problems, clear good guys, bad guys. They're very, very cut and dried for getting these terms across. Human beings that aren't action figures or in Marvel movies are much more complex, where we don't know. Since I said King Lear a moment ago, I'm going to say King Lear again. Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? He's both. He's a human being. He's got flaws. He has blindness. He has weaknesses, right? And that makes his behavior a certain way. It's much more mushy when we look at things like that. Even recently, it came to my attention, if you know King Lear, a lot of discussion about the daughters that are supposed to be so evil, which we all take for granted. Oh, his children are evil. They're being so unkind to him. I read a thing that was so interesting the other day that said, are they really? And then it kind of pointed out their dialogue where nothing pointed to them being evil. We just assumed that they were. And then there was a whole thing about, is this a misogynist reading that we've made these daughters evil, right? Human beings and good literature, good plays, good scripts make things a little more ambiguous and a little more obtuse than that, which is why I always go back to Marvel movies. But we begin with the script, with the context. Oh, okay. Let me go back to this because I know I'm going to need help in a second. I'm going to go back. Okay. Since you brought me to a nice place, and then I'm going to go back to my examples. So in our script, we have information. We have, you actually said almost all of them, the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why of the play. But sometimes it's not that overt. Sometimes I have to dig for it. What would be cases where I have to dig to understand the who, what, the when, the where, and the why of the play? What do you think? Well, I guess we'll define it a little more and then we'll come back to that. Okay, well, let's look at the who. Well, before you even look at that, what do you think? Here, I'm going to block it. What do you think? I'm not blocking anything. It's symbolic. What do you think I'm talking about when I talk about who? The who of the play. Characters. I'm the actor. What is the first who that I have to answer as the actor?
Who am I?
Who am I? How deep do I need to go with the who am I? Pretty deep. What does that mean?
Do you make up a backstory?
Oh, what an interesting idea. Yeah, I sure do. Sometimes it's given to you. Sometimes the playwright gives you all kinds of information. Sometimes it just says Jenny, an accountant, Philadelphia. Like, okay, I gotta make up a Jenny who's an accountant in Philadelphia. Yeah, but I'm going to make up a backstory for myself and I'm going to go really, really in depth. And here's where I go wrong with my students all the time. I make my students write paperwork for me because just thinking about it sometimes isn't enough. I'm also going to ask my technical help here. It's very hot in this room, isn't it? Are you? No, you're not hot? It's just me. Okay, all right. So if the rest of you are comfortable, I'm the one waving my large Muppet arms around here. So that's probably why I'm warm. Okay, then I won't ask for it to be cooler. So when I have my students do this work and they write the who, they'll write me a paragraph and I'll kick it back to them because a paragraph is not a human being, is it? The deeper you go into the who am I, the more of a dimensional character you're creating. My colleague at San Francisco State, so my full-time gig is I'm the coordinator of actor training at San Francisco State. And I have very smart colleagues and I like to steal their ideas a lot. Larry Eilenberg, who teaches here, who's taken Larry's classes? Yeah, Larry hired me. So Larry was my boss for a while. So just to prove that I have smart colleagues, Larry was one of my very smart colleagues. One of my other smart colleagues asks this question of her actors: what kind of cereal do you eat for breakfast? And isn't that genius? Because if you're having Lucky Charms for breakfast, you're a very different person than if you're having bran cereal for breakfast. And that says a lot about what? Your responsibility in the world, how you value health, how much fun is important to you versus more practical things.
Creating a character.
If I'm creating a character,
And the Fruit Loops and the brand have nothing to do with the character as people might perceive them. You're saying it's still important to flesh those things out, even though they're not germane to anything that's going to happen.
you got it.
Because it gives the character substance.
Yes. So I'm just going to recap. So if anybody's missing it, what if, and then again, you said this more articulately than I could. What if the play that you're in has nothing to do about eating Fruit Loops for breakfast or bran cereal or anything? Do you still need to flesh that out? Well, maybe not that specific thing, but if I know that, and let's say that the play is about me parenting my teenage child. If I'm a Fruit Loops breakfast eater, my parenting style might be really different than if I'm the one having the bran cereal. So it might be a clue into how I view the world and how I handle other things. Now, it doesn't have to be that question. It could be lots of other things. I'm going to ask myself, so for my actors, I give them a whole 3-page biographical sheet where I say, what religion were you raised as? Do you still practice that religion? Do you identify with that? What is your name? Do you like your name? Did you give yourself a different name? How do you feel about your gender you were born with? Is your identity different than the gender you were born with? All of these things. What are your relationships? Do you have a dog? Did you ever have a dog? Right? And what's really interesting is these things lead the actor into dimensional performances. So one of the first exercises that I do with my actors after they do this paperwork for the Who Am I is they come in and I don't give them any information. I say, you're going to come in dressed as your character and I'm going to interview you as your character. And they all freak out. And most people, I don't know, they get magically sick or they miss the Muni that day or something like that. But for the brave ones that come, and I don't even know what play they're working on because they pick their own scenes because I don't want to know. They come in, they sit in one chair in the room, and I just have a conversation with them. And pretty soon I go, oh, this person is not from this time period. Oh, okay. We're in 16th century France. Okay. And I go on that ride with them. And what's really interesting is when they've done that biographical information about all those questions that I asked, that interview is an amazing exploration for everybody. And by the end, when they come back to being themselves and they aren't the character, they will say something like, I have no idea where those answers came from. I'm like, well, then we were successful because you became this other person for the time that you were with us. Now, that doesn't mean that they truly believe they're that person, right? Which we've all seen Hollywood actors go astray, like Heath Ledger being the Joker and things like that, where they lose track of reality. My actors don't do that. They're working in a really healthy way where that doesn't happen. But it's those kinds of details that, going back to my first question, what makes good acting great, that the actor has done that work. I'm gonna kick out my favorite actors. You can insert your favorite actors, and if you don't agree with me, that's fine too. But you're all gonna agree that Meryl Streep is pretty great, right? Nobody's gonna fight me to the death on Meryl Streep. Okay. Meryl Streep is kind of where the bar is. And I think that whenever you practice an art form, if I'm a violinist, I want to look at Itzhak Perlman. That's where the bar is. Do you know what I mean? I need to know, what am I shooting for? What is the epitome of being great at this thing? And for me, it's Meryl Streep. And there was an interview with Meryl Streep. I forget, it was like Roger Ebert or somebody, I forget which film it was, but he asked a question, why in the movie you're wearing a skirt? How come you're constantly doing this? Why are you doing this? And she said, well, she said, actors have secrets, and I don't always tell my secrets, but you asked, and I will tell you. My character recently lost a lot of weight, and she's doing this to make sure that the weight is still gone. And I thought, right? Damn, Meryl. Look at the detail. Look at the level of thought of inhabiting another person. That's what makes Meryl Streep Meryl Streep. So when my actors come back and they write me one paragraph of, pardon me, bullshit, look, it's on the monitor, one paragraph of bullshit about something that they're doing to satisfy the assignment, I'm like, you are only going to get this far with that. And I do this not just for, I teach a film class. I do this not just for when I'm working with my film actors and when I'm working with stage actors in a straight play. I also teach musical theater. It's one of the main things that I do. And I make my musical theater actors do this before they do a song. Every time I interview them as the character. So if you're Sally Bowles, I'm going to interview you as Sally Bowles. And your song is going to have a lot more life in it because you've asked yourself these questions. So this is going back to, and I have to remember to take breaks because I get so excited talking about theater. So I'll give you a break in maybe like 15 minutes or so, if that's okay. So not only now I've answered a big who, which is the who am I. What are the other who's that I need to ask myself about? Yeah,
I have a question.
sure.
So my friend here mentioned mentioned Pinter.
Yes.
Now, you take a character who's got no background, got no dimension, got no rationale. How are you going to do this activity?
You're still going to do it. You're still going to do it. So the question was, what about Harold Pinter, who writes in a very different style, right? completely different style. Everything is sparse. There's so much going on in a Pinter play. So even if it looks, and again, I don't know all things about everything. You may hit me with a playwright that I don't have a frame of reference for. In this case, I work with Pinter. I have a lot of frame of reference, but you're smart. You're going to catch me out on things. But in the case of Pinter, so much is going on. So if I'm in a Pinter play and I say, my darling, would you like a cup of tea? Let's say that that's it. And it looks like there's nothing going on. What I'm really saying is, I know you're having an affair and I'm going to catch you out on that in this moment. So for me to have everything that is being said in a Pinter play is up here, and it looks like, oh, we're all just doing this and we have no inner life. If you drill down, we have so much inner life. We have so much that's so complex going on, but this is just the top. But if I don't know what's going on down here, then when I say, my darling, would you like a cup of tea? Then I'm just saying, my darling, would you like a cup of tea? And that's when Pinter becomes deadly. And there's so much bad Pinter done in the world because the actors go, well, he says, my darling, would you like a cup of tea? My darling, would you like a cup of tea? There, I got the dialect right. Everything's great. No, what's going on there? And it's not just, I know you're having an affair. It's, I've known you've been having affairs for the 15 years of our marriage and I've said nothing and I'm on the cusp of saying something or leaving you or having an affair myself. And that's all up here. It's the same thing with an Anton Chekhov play. It's all hanging out up here. And if I go, what beastly weather we're having, right? A bad translator, right? It could be a better translator. What beastly weather we're having. What I'm saying is I am just dying inside from ennui and I'm thinking about killing myself and possibly you, right? Whatever the play is. But all that stuff has to go on down here. So it's a fascinating question that you ask. And I'm going to say it becomes even more important with plays like that than with a play where everything is kind of hanging out on the surface. Because I have to create all that stuff bubbling underneath, which is the substance for the cover to make sense. Think of it like a pot of water that's boiling and then I've got like this lid on it. The lid is jumping around and dancing because there's all this stuff going on. Does that answer it? It was such a good question.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Percolate it. And then if you have add-ons, I love good questions. See, this is why I hate lecturing. I'd be telling you my spiel and it would be boring. I'm going to go here and here.
How often does the playwright, give you say more than 50 or 60% of the information that you need to define yourself?
That's a great question. How often does the playwright give you more than 50 or 60% of this? It depends on the playwright. Carol Churchill doesn't give you anything. If it's a Carol Churchill play, I have no idea. I got to make it all up. It will be, she will say a man or something like that. I have to make up so much unless she's working with historical figures and then that's a different thing. If I'm working with, and again, if these playwrights don't ring bells with you, that's okay, right? It's the concept that's important. If I'm working with a contemporary playwright like Donald Margulies, who's a wonderful playwright, most of it's given to me. I just have to read it carefully, and most of it's given to me. Most playwrights are going to be somewhere in the middle, where I have a lot of information, but I'm missing some information.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, please.
How often does the actor disagree with the director about?
That is such a good question. How often does the actor disagree with the director? In my case, all the time, which is one of the reasons why I'm much better suited at this stage in my life to being a director than an actor. I have a very hard time. I'm no longer the actor you want to hire because I have too many ideas of my own. A lot of the time, we don't agree. But the thing is, somebody has to be in charge of the storytelling. And what I've said to myself lately when I've been an actor and I'm a director, I have to go and I have this conversation with myself. Laura, you are a hired gun. You are a hired gun. You do what you're told. You go home and you bitch and moan about it later. You tell your cat, that's a stupid choice. But you don't do it in rehearsal and you don't fight the director. Their vision is the vision. But in a lot of cases, there's going to be so many different interpretations. And thank you for asking that, because this is going to be one of the primary things that we look at in here. We're going to look at how things can be different, the different choices that actors make all the time that make for completely different storytelling. Here's a little story. I'm never going to get through my PowerPoint, and that's good because you're asking really smart questions. Okay, so I was commissioned to write this book on script analysis for Nick Hearn in the United Kingdom, right? If you read my book, I sound like a different person because I sound like I swallowed a small British man named Nigel. It's a completely different voice than my voice. I say things like whilst and color is spelled with a U, all sorts of things. But I'm writing examples from scripts. And I used Uncle Vanya, a Chekhov play, as one of my examples. And I did all of this paperwork for the character Sonia. And I did all this stuff. And 3 o'clock in the morning, because I have insomnia a lot, I woke up and I went, I misinterpreted the scene. Everything that I put in my paperwork is wrong. I've worked on that scene with actors for like, I don't know. I mean, I've been teaching for 22 years. I've been working on that scene for like 15 years with actors. I was wrong. I told every 18 to 20-year-old actor the wrong way to be Sonia. Oh my God, what was I thinking? I need to go back and redo that. And then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if rather than redo that, I kept that paperwork in and then I showed alternative choices. And here's how it could be different. The same character, the same play, the exact same translator, and it's a completely different story. And she's a completely different Sonia with a completely different relationship with the other character, Astrov, who's a doctor, because of the choices that I made as the actor. And then I went, it was a game changer in my career. I went, this is why I never get bored doing what I'm doing, because there is no one way to play a scene in Hamlet. There's no one way to play a scene in Chekhov. Every minute that you make a different choice as an actor, you create a different reality for these people. So it's a really interesting question that you ask. There's so much latitude. Because honestly, if the playwright just handed us a blueprint, and I was a good little actor and I had to flesh out that blueprint, how long would I want to be an actor for if I'm smart enough to be capable of being an actor in the first place? And the answer would be not very long at all. I would get bored. But it's endlessly fascinating because of all the choices that we have to make.
Yeah, it suggests the power of the unconscious and the dream state and whatever else that we use to receive information.
So this is so interesting too, because we think about it, characters are operating on different levels, just like human beings are operating on different levels, right? They may just be operating at the surface level, but there may be all this stuff percolating there. They may not know why they're doing what they're doing. If I have a character that has a quest and a thirst for power, do they even know why? Do they even know what that deficit is in their life that makes them have this drive for power? Some of them might, some of them might not. So it's really interesting that you're talking about these different sort of states of consciousness and reality as well.
Do you believe that playwrights write backstories on their characters?
No, I don't. But the thing is, saying playwrights, it's like saying, what do 5-year-olds do? Well, you're a grandchild who's 5. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you have grandchildren or what age they are. It's going to be completely different than somebody else's grandchild at 5. So speaking about major groups of people, it's really hard to answer that. But I know playwrights, and the playwrights that I know don't write backstory. In fact, I don't know, and they're good playwrights too. I think playwrights tend to write situations. Just again, you're challenging me. This is great. I love these questions because I'm sitting here having to think, am I being honest? Is this right? I'm actually going to ask one of my playwright friends this tonight. But the playwrights that I know are working out situations. And in fact, I have a lot of playwrights that come and take acting with me so that they better learn how to create character. Because a lot of playwrights write very good situations, but don't necessarily write characters that we can inhabit. So one of the things that I'm always doing in scene study class is I'm trying to find playwrights for my actors that I call bulletproof, meaning they're writing dialogue that my actors can learn from and inhabit rather than just interesting situations and problems. Yeah.
You mean you're saying that you think the playwrights are writing situations for their characters that are not going to be in the final play, but he's going to learn about these characters?
I mean, it's a really interesting question. I'm thinking about a playwright that I know right now who writes plays that are produced all over America. And when I ask him how he works backwards from the situation. He takes the situation and the problem of the play, and then he tries to create scenarios and interactions between characters that will then lead to this ultimate outcome. So he's very much I'm going to call it, I'm making up a term here, a situational playwright, rather than, wow, here's a really interesting character study about a family, and these are the different personalities in it. I'm sure some people write that way. And again, answering for playwrights is like me answering for all actors. Well, I'm an actor and this is how I work, but you get 5 other actors here, they're going to say, I don't work that way at all. And you're probably sitting here going, you're overcomplicating things. I don't work that way at all. But my suspicion is that most of them are not writing backstory, which goes to your original question.
Between a screenplay and a play, if you take a book by Somerset Maugham and the depth to which he goes into character, and then somebody looks at it and says, boy, this would make a great play. This would make a great movie. Here are these characters. They already have more backstory that is just like a treasure trove of it. And then that's translated into action.
Yes, and this is a great thought. And this is why, first of all, it's really hard to make a good screenplay out of a great novel. And so often they fail, right? Sometimes they're successful, but when they are successful, look at that. Right? If I'm going to be the Great Gatsby, I don't have to write my backstory. It was already written for me way better than I ever could. So that's really, really, see, you're making my wheels work. I love this. That's a great thought. Plays don't have that advantage. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get back on it. Oh, okay. I'm going to get back on it for a minute, and then I'm going to give you a little break, which is great. Okay, so we talked about who. Oh, but I missed the other part of the who. What are my relationships? That's incredibly important. So even if I know I'm this person and this is what makes me tick and this is why I do the things that I do, and my favorite color is purple, and I'm a vegetarian, but I really hate tofu, or whatever that situation is. Once I establish that, I have to know what's going on with the other people in this world with me. Well, I have in the play, I have a teenage daughter, and I have a lot of tension with this teenage daughter. Why? What is that relationship? Was that relationship ever different? Oh, when she was 5, we were best friends, and I thought we were going to be like this forever. But then when she turned 11, everything went south, and now she doesn't want to have a relationship with me, right? All of the interactions that we have with the other character is really what drives, I heard it over here, conflict, which is what makes theater, what makes a play worth watching, what makes a TV show worth tuning into time after time after time, which is interesting. Is anybody watching The Crown besides me? It's so good. It's so good. You have to watch The Crown. I actually turned off the episode that I was watching last night. There was hardly any conflict in it. It's after Diana dies. That's not a spoiler. You all knew that Diana died, right? But the episode after it, I'm like, this is so badly written. This whole series has been just so beautifully written, and I'm so disappointed in this episode because it isn't until 3/4 of the way through the episode that we actually get a strong conflict. Conflict is what makes us watch and what makes us continue to tune in week after week after week to the TV show, why we stay in the movie theater instead of going out to get more popcorn, right? It's conflict that drives that, and conflict comes from our relationships with the other characters. The more specifically I can name what that conflict is, the better. The more I know who those other people are and how they interact with me, the more it's a gold mine for conflict.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I know nothing about acting, and I have no interest in acting.
Okay.
How can you accept the fact that a writer who's writing for a situation doesn't know what he's writing about?
It depends on what level you're looking at that.
Question, I didn't-
So I'm going to try to recap your question. You're not interested in being an actor. In fact, maybe you were supposed to be in the archaeology one. You're not interested in being an actor, but you're really, really wondering, tell me if I'm wrong, how a playwright is writing about, can you say the second part to me again?
When he's writing about a character that he wants to write about, but that depends on his creativity as a writer.
Right.
Um,
He's writing about a character he has no interest in, depends on his creativity as a writer.
yes, he wants to create he wants to show the say circumstances that an individual will come across, and that's what he's writing about.
He's writing about the situation that the individual is encountering. That's what he's writing about. So what is the question? I'm trying to get to the meat of the question.
How can you question that?
In what way am I questioning that? Is my question.
Well, how do you know what the writer is trying to put across?
I don't. That's the thing. It's a guessing game. I can't go back and ask Mr. Shakespeare if Ophelia and Hamlet slept together. I really want to know. I can't ask that. To me, and we'll look at this in another class probably. Knowing if, and I'm going to use Shakespeare's examples a lot because that's probably a common ground where we probably know who those characters are and what those plays are. It makes a difference if I know that Hamlet and Ophelia had a physical relationship. Well, there's a lot of there's a whole book about that lots of people will
Quote.
I'm sure you can give me many quotes. And the thing is, I agree with you. So, but that's a whole other thing, right? But there are people who will punch each other out. There's a book called The Shakespeare Wars. Well, they will just punch each other out because everybody finds different evidence to support whatever they want. Anyway, you and I are in agreement, but I need to know that in order to play the scene. Because if you look at a lot of different versions of that, the version of Hamlet that Kenneth Branagh is in, or that he was responsible for, it's very clear that he made a decision that they slept together. So your answer is, to your question is, I don't know. I don't know. All I can do is I can look at the facts that have been given to me by the playwright. And look, you had a fact ready to go to disprove that they slept together. Yeah, you want to tell me?
Lady, may I lay in your lap? No, my lord.
That mean you country matters.
My head in your lap.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my lord. Did you think I spoke of country matters?
But
What thoughts to lie between maids' legs?
so also, here's another thing to that. And the scholar would say, well, she knows that she's being viewed by society, that she's being overheard. So she's pretending to be an innocent when she isn't. We could go down this rabbit hole. I agree with you. Right. But you can argue with anything, right? There's going to be a scholar that's going to say it's because the entire play is about watching, right? And she thinks she's being watched that she said that. That would be the counter argument to that. That's not where I'm going anyway. It's that we don't know. We don't know. So what we do is we're like a detective. We weren't there when, the character was murdered, right? But what I have is I have a footprint, and I have a little thumbprint on the light switch and all of these things. And then I'm going to kind of draw conclusions based on that. So your question is a really, really good one. And then one more, and then I'm going to give everybody a break for a second.
Okay. I went to Oregon to the Shakespeare Festival, and they did a Shakespeare play. I can't remember it, but anyway, and it was acted by Black people, and the outcome was completely different to any of the same play that I'd seen acted by white actors. And I was very uncomfortable by that. So it was bringing out a prejudice in me.
Which is probably what the design was. So I'm just going to recap. You saw something at Oregon Shakespeare Festival, traditionally performed by Caucasian people, that was performed by actors of color. It challenged you in a different way. I think theater is designed to challenge us. And I think that especially people are taking a lot of liberties with Shakespeare for that purpose, to challenge an audience's assumption, to turn things on their head, to turn power structures on their head. I'm going to put a pin in this conversation right now. How long a break do you usually take in your classes? You take 10 minutes? Let's take 10 minutes and come back and we'll continue talking.
Wow.
know. No.
How could we be moving into this?
I'm gonna give it one more minute and then I'll start again.
Realize. Just now? Because they don't.
Just let me know when you're ready to play the video. and I'll-
Sure, okay. How should I summon you?
I'll put it on ready to start.
Okay.
There you go. Was it comfortable? Say the kids didn't want.
Okay, I think I'm gonna get going again. And I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start by, someone had a question on the chat. The one question on the chat that isn't about me being teeny tiny and a postage stamp, which hopefully we've fixed. I know I'm not in frame, and I apologize for not being in frame. I'll be there in a second. But someone asks, doesn't the playwright have the responsibility to give the actors and the directors enough information to make their choices obvious? And if they wish to depart from what appears obvious, to make their departure from the script credible? So often at award ceremonies, an actor will say, I did a fine job because the script made it easy. It's a great question. Yeah, it is the playwright's responsibility to give you enough information to do that. But as we've been having an interesting conversation about playwrights, and every playwright is different. And I might think, just like, you know how everybody gives directions differently? If I was to get directions from my former spouse, I would never wind up anywhere, because it would be at the southwest corner, you need to, I don't know, go northeast. And I'd be like, just tell me where the McDonald's is. If you tell me where the McDonald's is and tell me to turn left, I'll get there. Different, where my dad, that would have made total sense to him if somebody gave him directions that way. So playwrights are the same way. My former spouse giving me directions that way was crystal clear directions in his book, absolutely totally useless to me. So it is the playwright's responsibility to provide the world. But the way we interpret that world, the way we flesh out the missing pieces, is kind of up to us as actors. That being said, it is the actor's responsibility and the director's responsibility to make choices that they believe are in accordance with the playwright's wishes. What do I mean by that? That every time I'm a director, I pretend that the playwright is there. And are they going to get mad at me? Because I've worked on, when I was in graduate school at the American Repertory Theater, I worked on a lot of new plays with new playwrights in residence. And they had some very different ideas than we did. We worked in residence with Susan Laurie Parks. We worked in residence with Adam Rapp. And I thought it was plain as day that the scene was about this. And Adam Rapp would say, oh, no, it's not about that at all. Shay Lee is falling apart here. I'm like, really? Okay. And then we would all have to rework things because the playwright was there. We're going to get it wrong. We can't, read everybody's minds, but we're really going to try our best. But yes, it is the playwright's responsibility, but everybody provides those directions differently. Okay. These are really interesting thoughts that you're all bringing up. And it just shows you there is no one right way to interpret these things. There's no right way to do this. So whenever you ask me a challenging question, and whenever you have those moments of, well, I don't believe this is right, and she's full of crap, these are the most exciting moments teaching. Because what does it mean? It means that you're thinking about something in a new way. And the most exciting moments for me are when my students don't agree with me. I love those moments. I mean, I work with the youngins and they always have to be respectful when they don't agree with me. But it's like, good, I'm presenting enough of a firm foundation of my point for you to have a point that butts up against that and to have a different perspective. And that's what makes for an interesting conversation. And that's why I love this, because I always go back to, this isn't organic chemistry. You don't put stuff in the beaker, you put the wrong things in and the whole room explodes. You think something different than I think, and that's actually the definition of art, isn't it? It's supposed to challenge us. It's supposed to make us think in a different way about things. So when you question what I'm saying and you think, maybe I'm not really right, that's great. And I want you to stick with that. And I want you to tease that out, because that's where the interesting stuff starts to happen. Let's go back again. a recap of what this is. Yes, please.
So it seems that if you have the playwright there, then obviously they can give you some guidance.
Right.
But if the playwright is not around, you can see the same play and the different plays depending on who the director is.
Exactly. And one of the things we're going to do in a couple of minutes is we're going to look at two performances of the same text. They're incredibly similar in their take, but have moments of variation, because that's what it all is. And this isn't just the play. This happens all the time because I let my students pick their own material. I don't give them prescriptive material. First of all, I don't know their gender identities, their ethnic identities. I let everybody pick their own stuff so that I don't misgender anybody or miscast anybody in any way. And what's interesting is invariably, because they tend to gravitate towards the same material, they will say, oh no, she took my song. She's doing my song. And be like, great. That's fantastic, because it's going to be a completely different song because you're a completely different actor with a completely different idea of what it's all about. So there's going to be that variation. Okay. So just to recap, because you see how like you could just go into the weeds on all of these things. When I say, what is it to be an actor? How do we start? Which is why when I get the new script, I have a panic attack. Because I'm like, I have rehearsal starting in 3 weeks. So this is my framework for how I get started. I ask myself these questions. And we just did the who is your character, which is the who am I and the who are you in my interactions, right? But what is the current situation? Because plays are about problems. TV shows, scenes in TV shows are about problems. Movies are about problems. When I say problems, it goes back to that idea of conflict. You and I have to work something out. What is the problem that needs to be overcome? So one of the things I invite you to do, and here's my ultimate goal. I want to ruin theater for you. I want to ruin TV shows. I want to ruin the movies for you, because and I say that lovingly, I want you not to look at it in the same way. I can't go to the theater. I can't go to the theater. I can watch a movie and I can watch a TV show and I can let go. When I'm in a live performance, I'm working. It doesn't matter how good it is, I'm at work. So when I go to visit my friends in Paris, in Germany, and wherever, and they have this great idea, like, I'm going to take you to the theater. I'm like, no, please don't, please don't, please don't. Just take me to the art gallery. Don't take me to the theater. Because I can't turn off this part of my brain. And that's what I'm hoping starts to happen for you, is that you start to look at things that way. So here's my challenge to you. Is anybody going to see live theater anytime soon? Like maybe this, what are you going to see? I'm just hopping in the back.
Dolls.
Guys and Dolls. Great. What else? What are you seeing? I saw another hand.
We're seeing Just for Us at Berkeley Rep.
Okay. Everything at Berkeley Rep is good. Well, mostly. What do you see? Same thing. Okay. So actually you can do it with Guys and Dolls too. Play the game, and do this if you're not seeing live theater, if you're just watching a TV show, of asking yourself these questions. And the questions will get deeper as next week when we start to go into what people want and things like that. But what is the current situation? What is the problem that needs to be overcome? Because plays are about problems. What is this person's predicament? So I'll go back to The Crown, right? Because that's what I was watching last night. And it's after Diana's death. And Charles wants the family to be very publicly involved in the country's mourning, and the Queen wants it to be private. And they're having this conflict. That's the problem that needs to be overcome in that episode. That's what drives the entire fabric of the episode. You can look at anything. I mean, it's been a hot second since I saw Guys and Dolls, but you can take any scene from Guys and Dolls and go, somebody wants something from somebody else that they're not getting. What is the problem? And this is the engine that drives all theater. The next thing is, where are they? So we're in a space, and this is a very different space that affects our behavior. This would be a completely different experience if we were in a circle. If I took this off and we were in a circle together, this would be a very different experience than this. This creates a reality. This creates a hierarchical structure that I'm not even sure I'm comfortable with. Space affects behavior. If we were in a bowling alley If we were in a bar, this would be completely different. If we were in a library, if we were in MoMA, this would also be different. Space creates reality. So where are they? But not just the space, but the things that happen around the space. Who was out earlier this week when it was pouring rain? Who got soaked like I did? Miserable, right? Who had to walk around all day with the soggy socks? Okay, I taught at Google on Tuesday, and I got caught in that rainstorm on my way to catch the Google bus. Did you know there's a Google bus? Now I do. And I had to go an entire day completely soaked through, right? Because I was away from home. This affects behavior. I was cranky that day. I was super cranky because I was wet. The where affects behavior. If we were in the deep south, let's say we were in Louisiana and it was summer, we would enter this space very differently. How would you enter this space if you were in Louisiana in August versus what happened now? What would happen?
Probably be frozen.
You'd probably be frozen because you walked into air conditioning. Yeah, you need a little sweater, right? Where it's probably the same temperature as outside here. Well, this all sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Well, of course, Laura, if you get wet, that's going to affect behavior. Here's what happens all the time when I'm dealing with new actors. There's a scene that my actors work on a lot from a play called Stop Kiss. And the idea is that one of the characters is coming in from outside. She's been rained on. She's cold. She's soaked through. They have to go to an event, this award ceremony for the other character. And she comes into this warm apartment and she just wants to not go back out in the rain again. She wants to get warm. And there's a whole conflict that happens between the characters because the other character's like, we gotta go. And she's like, can't I just get warm for another minute? That creates the conflict in the scene. What happens every time my actors do that scene is they come in with an umbrella because they did their homework. Actor puts the umbrella down and just starts having the conversation. I'm going, there's a problem with this because then there's no reason to have the conflict. Because wait, umbrella's down, here you are, I'm ready to go to the award ceremony versus I am so dripping wet, I am so cold right now, all I want is a shower, all I want to do is get warm. And then it's like, we gotta go, oh, just let me get warm for 2 minutes. The reality of the where is what drives the engine of the conflict. It's the thing that actors forget all the time. They forget the where. And as actors, we have to learn the hard way. Here's my story of how I learned the hard way. You might know the actor Vivian Nathan. Do you know Vivian Nathan? Okay. Vivian Nathan, I don't even know what she did. I'm just going to take it for everybody's word. She was at the Actors Studio. She was a big deal. And I don't know what she did or why she was a big deal, but I'm buying that. Anyway, we had guest artists, Hollywood, New York actors came in to coach us. And Vivian Nathan was coaching my scene from Top Girls with my scene partner. And Vivian Nathan eviscerated everybody. She made everybody cry. She made us all feel like we didn't know what we were doing. And my scene partner and I were like, we are going to work this scene into the ground and she's not going to be able to say anything. We're going to be so damn good. We worked on this scene. Our scene was good. We had props. We knew what we were doing. We worked our tushes off on this thing. We take that Vivian Nathan, she's sitting there and she's like, where's the child? We're like, they're in the next room. Then why were you shouting? She got me. I didn't understand the where. It's a whole conversation in Top Girls with my sister about this child and about the problem of this child. And we're having an argument with each other because the dialogue sounds like they're having an argument. And we forgot the child that we're discussing is in the next room and we can't actually scream at the top of our voices. She's going to hear. I forgot my where. And I got my ass handed to me by Vivian Nathan. And guess what? I will never forget the where ever again. And I will never let my students forget the where because of that. We have to learn the hard way as actors. So the environment affects them. When is it taking place? So why is when important? Why is when important? Yeah.
Well, think about the Crown. We're talking about another era.
Yes.
I didn't like the second cast.
I know they changed because you just get attached to you get attached to who's playing the queen and then it changes again. I know.
Claire Full.
Me too. I don't like Imelda Staunton as much as Yeah, me too. We would watch season 1 together. We would get popcorn. We'd have a good time. Right. So yeah, that's a different era. If we're talking about The Crown, it's a different era. Behavior is different. Morals are different. Values are different. We have to know about that. So we've got the little when and the big when. Let's talk about the little when first. The little when is time. You and I are having a very different experience because this class started at 1 p.m. If this class had started at 8 a.m. or at 8 p.m., we would be having a slightly different experience, wouldn't we? As somebody who teaches college classes that start at 9:30 a.m. to a college student, 9:30 a.m. might as well be 5 a.m. They think it's so damn early. For me, it's like halfway through the day, but it's a different experience. So that's a different kind of when. Then I also have the when of seasons. Let's think about that. Now we're in California, and the only way I know that there are different seasons is they change the cups at Starbucks. If they didn't change the cups at Starbucks, I would have no idea what season it is. I grew up in upstate New York where we had spring and spring had mud and flowers and stuff, and we had winter and there were blizzards, and you knew what season it was. Here, I don't know what season it is. But let's pretend that we are in a place that has seasons. It affects behavior. I teach in a lot of different countries, and most recently I taught in Poland. It gets dark in Poland in the winter at like 2:30 in the afternoon. It is a recipe for depression. That affects behavior. If I'm going to go back again to my examples, to a Chekhov play, and it takes place in winter, I know what a Russian winter is. It's going to be dark like a Polish winter. No wonder they're all talking about how depressed they are. It's dark at 2:30. You wouldn't have a Chekhov play that took place in Barbados. It just wouldn't happen, right? So when it happens is really, really important. And we can't take that for granted because when is about season, when is about time, when is about intimacy. So again, I'm going to go back to my Chekhov play for a minute. The scene that I was talking about with Sonia and the Dr. Astrov, who she has this terrible crush on, takes place after midnight. Sonia, who's not very pretty and is always overshadowed by the beautiful Yelena, is with her great love, the Dr. Astrov, who's like depressing, sexy, and all the things, right? And that's different at midnight than it would be if it was 7 p.m. because there's an intimacy. And they're in the kitchen and she says, let me get you a snack. And she like pulls cheese out of the cupboard. It's a recipe for intimacy that she craves that he doesn't want. That's not going to happen at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. you're going to go, do you want some cheese? And it's not going to have all of these overtones of, I'm really into you. Could you be interested in me? And all of these things that happen when people are together and alone in a room after midnight. So the when is vitally important. And these are the things, I know this seems so self-evident because you're sitting there, but when you're the actor, all these things go out the window. It's the weirdest thing. I teach acting, right? This is all I do all day, every day is I work with actors, and I very rarely lecture about acting. Most of what I do is a bunch of actors come in a room and I make their scene work better. I'm looking at scene work all the time. They come to me with an understanding of this, and I'm just getting down into the nitty-gritty and making things better. But they forget this all the time, and it's not their fault. When you're an actor, you have so much to think about, as you know. What is there to think about when you're an actor?
What is there not to think?
Exactly. It's everything, right? And what happens is you start to get overloaded and overwhelmed with really stupid things like, wait, am I coming in here and I have to grab the spatula, and then there's the baby, but the baby needs a blanket, but I get the blanket from over here. There's all this stuff that is clogging up your head. And no, it's not about the lines. And when I'm an actor, people always say, how do you learn all those lines? It's like, yeah, that's a problem. I really hate learning lines and I'm not particularly good at it, but that's the least of my problems. The bigger problems are things like, I got to come in, I got to grab the baby's in this hand. This was a real play I was in. The baby's in this hand, but I also have to grab the wooden spoon, but they just brought the wooden spoon off that way and I have to get that. And then I have to do a quick change off of here. And I got to get into my new costume because then I have to get up on the thing and come down the thing. And that's where your attention goes because there's all these logistical problems to solve. So I forget this. I would never forget this as an acting teacher, but as the actor who's preoccupied with 10 million problems, this is the stuff I forget. So I do my paperwork, so I'm sure that I don't forget that when I came in from the rain, I gotta act like I came in from the rain. And sometimes when you're the actor, everything about your environment is going to lie to you and make you want to tell lies. I'll give you an example. I was in a play called Almost Maine, which takes place in Maine, in a town called Almost, very cleverly named play. And it's supposed to be like in the middle of winter in Maine. So our costumes where we had these big parkas and earmuffs and all this, and the scene is I'm with my boyfriend and I'm sitting on a log. We did this in Miami. And the air conditioning broke. The air conditioning broke. And the theater that we did this in was about 100 degrees. So I have to sit there in the parka where I actually feel like I'm going to pass out with the earmuffs, with the snow boots, pretending that I can't get warm on this log outside while it's snowing. How hard do you think it is to keep track of your reality of the where and the when this is happening? But what would have happened to my audience if all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in Florida and I'm schwitzing? Like, what would have happened? What would have happened to their ability to buy into it? It'd be gone. And then I would never get them back. So every moment in that play where I didn't used to have to do this, I would go, you're in Maine and you're cold. You're in Maine and you're cold. Try to remember what it's like to be cold. Try to remember the physicality of what it's like to be cold. You hunch your shoulders when it's cold. You do this because you can't get warm when it's cold. Do that. Everybody will think you're cold and then you can die later, right? So these are the things that we have to keep track of or we lose our audience. Okay. Why is this event happening now? And this is where there's a little bit of deviation in what different acting teachers call the given circumstances, because somebody else might call this how. I call it why. And the way I frame it is, and I'm a Jewish girl, you probably know from all the Yiddish that I'm sprinkling in, but I call it the Passover question, because on Passover, we say, why is this night different from all other nights, right? I call this the Passover question for any of my Jewish friends. It's, why is this moment in the play different from all other moments? What does that mean? This situation has been going on for a while. Let's say lots of plays are about interpersonal problems. So let's say that the play is about me wanting to break up with my husband. Well, the marriage has been bad for a while. The marriage has been really, really bad for a while. Why in this scene do I say to him, I can't do this anymore? And if you think about your own life, right, and these are things that you can answer inside, right? We've all had those breaking point moments with people in our families, romantic interests, our children, our employers, whoever it was. We all have a moment where we've been putting up with the thing, trying to work the thing out, trying to hang on to the job, trying not to have conflict with the child, trying to keep things smooth with the spouse, with the mother, whatever that is. And then we have a moment where we're like, enough is enough is enough. And then we take action. Why? What are the things that lead to that? Because plays aren't about the 5 years that you swallowed it and that you took it and that you were in the bad relationship, at the bad job, whatever that was. It's about the moment where we go, enough is enough. That's what we go to watch. So why is it happening now? Why didn't it happen before? That's one of the most interesting questions to ask. And I guess my question is, did the playwright give you that information? Did the playwright give that to you? Sometimes.
Preceding it, of course. or
Mhm.
She has a dream, that morning or something, right?
Yeah, right. So I'm going to be able to tease that out, hopefully, in the chain of events that the playwright gave me. But I might need to flesh that out. So I might have a scene where I'm seeing that tensions with my sister are raising. Oh, mom passed away, right, in the previous scene. And then the next scene is we're coming to make arrangements for the antiques in the house. So I know that because that was percolating there. But sometimes I have to, again, fill in with my own story. So even if I have that much information, as the actor, I want to fill in more. I want to go, well, There was so much tension about that piano because my mom wanted to leave her the piano and my daughter is taking piano lessons and I'm getting that piano, right? The more I can give myself a really, really compelling reason to play it that way, the better it's going to be. Yeah? Okay. And this is where I may need help in a second. Let's see. Why is it? Uh-oh. My slides are not. I need help. Auga. I love it. Somebody will come running. Auga. 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 Let's see. Isn't this great? So I also can't use my clicker. I don't know why. I wish I had him in life. I mean, do you know what I mean? I'm locked out of my apartment. Auga. I'm gonna try my clicker now. Okay, while you're here, I'm gonna play these things. Let's play them. So here, I'm gonna frame this for you for a second. We're gonna watch two versions of something from the Scottish play. And I'm gonna call this a theater, so I'm not gonna say the name of Shakespeare's play. They're very subtly different. We're going to watch the interaction between Mr. M and Lady M. And they're similar, but there are slight differences. And I want to hear what it is you see are the differences in the performance. So this is the first version. Yep.
What news?
He is almost sapped. Why have you left the chamber?
Hath he asked for me?
No, not he has.
We will proceed no further in this business.
Can I pause for a second?
We have
So this is Mackers and Lady M discussing whether they're going to commit the murder of the king. And she is suggesting that, and he's going, no deal. Can we start it again now that it's louder?
Me of late, and I've bought golden opinions from.
No,
all
can we
sorts
start
of
from the
people.
beginning? Yeah.
Which
And it's Judy Denton and McKellen.
What news?
He is almost sapped. Why have you left the chamber?
Hath he asked for me?
No, not he has.
We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honoured me of late, and I've bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which will be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon.
Was a hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? And wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? Ah, from this time, such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat of the adage?
Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
What beast was then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more of a man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves. And that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail.
We fail. But screw your courage to the sticking place, and we'll not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him, his two chamberlains will I with wine and wassail so convince that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only, when in swinish sleep their drenched natures lie as in a death. What cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers? who shall bear the guilt of our great quell.
Bring forth men, children only, for thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males.
Let's watch the next one.
Will it not? But
He has
that's okay.
slept. Why have you left the chamber?
Hath he asked for me?
No, you're not, he has.
We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honored me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon.
Was the hoop drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? And wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeared to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteem'st the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would like the poor cat in the adage?
Prithee, peace! I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
What beast was then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed his brains out had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail,
We fail.
Okay, so there are a million different versions of this. And one of the reasons I picked these two versions to show you is that they're incredibly similar. So if we were to look at, like, there's a Michael Fassbender version of this with Marion Cotillard, completely different than the Judi Dench, if you're interested in playing comparison games. These two interpretations are very similar, but they come across completely differently, and their relationship with each other is so different. How do you characterize it? It's the same play, the same scene, the same dialogue, thank you so much, given to us by the same playwright. They're different people. I know who I want to watch in bed more than the others, right? I know who's having hotter sex, right? What's the difference? What do you see as the difference? It's really subtle. How's the power negotiated differently in the different versions?
Unbelievable.
Tell me more. So I heard the movement in the first one was unbelievable. Tell me more about the movement. Yes. Why do you think she does that? In the first, right, the movement is less interesting in the second one, right? Yeah. Why do you think they keep shifting physically in the first one? Power. So here's my question. Are they an equal match in the second one, intellectually and in terms of power structure?
No, let's say
You say yes? What about the first one?
No.
No, tell me.
The sexual play between them is so extraordinary.
Is, right?
And she is in effect saying, if you will do this, I will love you and you can have me. And he's saying, but I want you now. And she's saying, no, I withhold myself unless you agree.
Yeah. It's a completely different power structure. It's the same play. It's the same characters. There's even the similar interpretation, right? If we introduced Marion Cotillard's Lady M into all of this, totally different. She's not interested in power at all. She's grieving. They made up a whole backstory in that version. It's a great version. It's actually my favorite version of this play, where they had a child die in childbirth, and that's why they're all messed up. Oh, that makes so much sense to me. They're grieving. Oh, it's not that they're all power hungry. They're just consumed with grief. Now I can get behind them, right? It's a really interesting take. This is a similar take, but I feel so differently about it, right? And what you're saying is exactly what I'm seeing. This is some hot sexual dynamics here, and she's got him. And he doesn't even realize that she's got him because he thinks he's in power. And she's got all the power. The other one, the other version that we saw, it's a negotiation between two equals, where she's going, look, don't be a weenie. And he's going, look, have you thought about the consequences? And she's going, you know, I don't know, could you take the car to Jiffy Lube on Monday? And he's going, I don't know, I have work. Do you know what I mean? It's much more of an equal relationship dynamic so that they arrive at the same place in the same way. Well, what if we should fail? Well, then we fail, but we're in it together. Where the Judi Dench one, she's got this whole thing like, are you a man? Prove it to me, prove it to me. And then he's got this thing of, okay, I'm going to do this, but you got to give me sons. And it's like, ooh, yowza, right? I want to watch that version a whole lot more because I'm going back to who do I want to watch in bed? I want to watch those guys in bed. That's going to be hot. Okay. It's that, why do I show this to you? It's not because I love talking about, you know, theoretical Shakespearean sex. That's not what it's all about. It's to show you that the little minute distinctions that the actor makes tells a completely different story. We're going to walk away from the Judi Dench version going, oh, that Lady M. Ooh, she's one conniving, power-hungry woman, and she's just got him because she's got this sexual, intellectual energy, and she's just got him raw. The other one, we might go, this is a couple that really made some bad choices, and they really, really failed. If we watch the Michael Fassbender version, we're going to go, those poor people, they are in such a degree of grief, and boy, they need a shower. Because in the Michael Fassbender version, it's amazing because you get a sense of just how gritty and dirty this world is. It's absolutely amazing. I really suggest that you watch it because you really get the idea of, you know how you watch battle scenes and they're interesting? You watch the battle scenes in that and it's like, it's nauseating. You want to barf from it because it's blood and mud and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to come away with a different take. And this is what makes it so interesting. And my Lady M is going to be completely different than your Lady M and your Lady M and your Lady M, because we're going to make subtly different choices. And even if we all have the same director aiming towards the same thing, I'm going to see that one line a little bit different. Like I'm going to see, then screw your courage to the sticking place. I'm going to go, oh, I'm going way for the sexual double entendre there. I'm going full into that. Where another actor might just gloss over that. They know the double entendre is there, but they're not going to, like, you know, bury themselves into it. My little minute choices that I make as an actor is going to change the way the story is told. So that's why I showed that. And this is a lot of what we're going to be looking at and we're going to be looking at scripts too, because I don't want to just show you finished versions. I'm going to bring in some finished versions and go, wow, how do you think they wound up at this very different interpretation? Where do you think the lines were where they made a different choice? What do you think those choices were? And then we're also going to look at some scripts that don't have film versions attached, and we're going to make those choices once I give you the full toolkit for everything. I'm giving you a little teeny piece of the toolkit right now. Okay. Yes, please.
Oh, it's really more of a comment. It's so unrealistic for two people to speak that loudly with their lips 2 inches apart.
Yes.
It's so unrealistic.
It is. Yes, and this is why, in a weird way, it's so much easier being a film actor than, I was on a film last year this time, and I couldn't believe like how easy it was in a weird way. Like there's lots of things you have to think about, like continuity. If I button my shirt this way and they do the take again, I got to do the buttons the exact same way on the exact same lines. There's things like that that I need to worry about, but I don't need to worry about that because that's the hardest thing, is to have some kind of stage intimacy that they can hear in the third balcony. You're absolutely right. It is one of the hardest things to keep hold of. And I have a problem as an actor when I'm doing an intimate scene, I go off voice. Off voices, I go into a whisper. I'm a voice coach. I'm the person who's hired to be in the back row going, we can't hear you. That's my job, right? Before I did this job, that's what I used to do. And yet as the actor, I was constantly not able to be heard because it was like, how do I buy into that reality of you and I are having this intimate moment and they have to hear it back there? So you're right. So I'm kind of jumping all over in my slides, but I'll talk for another minute and I'll introduce one more concept and then we'll almost be at time for the day. So all of these things that I'm starting to introduce are what we call as actors, I'm sure you've heard this too, the toolkit of the actor. So the way we build a toolkit, right, you see this, is we've got different tools in it. And just like, you're going to need a hammer in your toolkit, it's debatable. Do you actually need this ruler? Do you need it to look like this? I would prefer a tape measure personally, right? And that's really how we build the toolkit of being an actor. So if you were in here and you were training to be an actor with me, I'm giving you all these tools, and the tools I'm giving you are pretty common, and most actors are going to choose to use those tools. But you might decide, I don't like working that way. So there are tools that I have tried on. I have tried on a technique called Meisner technique. If you've heard of Meisner technique, which is all about listening and repeating and the rhythm of dialogue. It does not work for me. It does not work for me. Maybe because it doesn't work, or maybe because the people who taught me that weren't the right match for me. It's gotta work. Allison Janney is a Meisner actor and she's amazing. I love her. She's one of my favorites. But I'm going, I'm not gonna put Meisner in my toolkit. I'm not going to put Michael Chekhov technique in my toolkit. I'm going to put Stella Adler in my toolkit. I'm going to put Uta Hagen in my toolkit. These are all acting practitioners who taught some version of what I'm telling you right now. So that's what the toolkit is. And I'm giving you some of these tools. But the thing is, one of the things that you are going to say to me is, but Laura, I don't want to be an actor. I'm not here to be an actor. I'm not going to go audition. You're an audience member, right? This is going to change the way you're an audience member. It's going to give you a different lens to look at that through. And I also am going to argue it's going to change the way you read. Even if you read a novel, you might look at a novel slightly differently. You might look at a piece of journalism slightly differently. Because I might go, what is this person's objective? What do they want from me as the reader of this piece in the New York Times? Everything that I'm doing here kind of applies to everything else because life is like that. So the questions that I just gave you are the given circumstances questions, the who, what, when, where, why of a play, a movie, a TV show. And as an actor, you can't even begin to do the script unless you can answer these questions for yourself in depth, because it's not just about how I relate to you, it's also how I relate to the environment, because plays, TV shows, they're all about the environment. Downton Abbey takes place in Downton Abbey. Downton Abbey couldn't take place in Walmart in Alabama. Okay, there's just no way. It's that because it's that. Nor could a story that takes place in Walmart in Alabama hold up in Downton Abbey. And again, these are extreme circumstances, but, in extreme variation, but it all applies. One last concept for the day, and then we'll go. And this is the moment before. So this is something that actors forget. Your character is always coming from someplace and going to someplace. This is what I run into with actors all the time. If we were in acting class right now, the actor would be here, the other actor would be here, and they'd be like, okay, we're starting the scene now, go. It's like, where did you come from? What happened? So before you came into class, I saw a lot of you were out there like eating cookies and like talking to people and stuff like that. That changes the way you come into class, doesn't it? That's a lot better than if you couldn't find a parking spot. If you couldn't find a parking spot and you thought, oh, it's the first day and I'm going to be late and I'm going to feel weird coming in late, you're going to come in with a very different energy than if you'd been out there having cookies and catching up with your friend. It changes your experience of being in the class, how receptive you are to the information, how comfortable you are. Why not the same thing for a character? So I give some scenarios, right? If you just had an argument the moment before the scene starts, then you're coming in with that energy. You ever have a family member come in and you know what kind of day they had just by the way they put the keys down and stuff, and you're like, uh-oh, I'm going to make myself scarce. Or they come in singing a little song and you're like, it's going to be a good night. Maybe you don't have as extreme family members as I have. I'm going to use strange examples because I don't hang out with normal people. Everybody I know is an actor, a director, a writer. It's kind of extreme. So I'm going to have a different energy there versus I just found out I won the lottery. That's going to be a different entrance to the scene versus I was just chased by a wolf. That's going to be a very different way to enter the scene. This all seems really intuitive, right? But again, actors have so many things to think about. I'm thinking about taking the baby. I'm thinking about getting the spatula. I'm thinking that I have to do a quick change and run up, and then I have to slide down the pole. And oh my God, I hope my dress doesn't catch on the pole this time because it did last time, and I almost lost my dress on stage. Your brain is turning over a million things. One of the things you always have to ask yourself is, where did I just come from? A lot of the time, the playwright isn't going to tell you that. They're not, and that's one of those things, the playwright is really not going to provide that for you most of the time. They might say, Diana comes in out of the rain. She is soaking wet. Thank you, bless you, playwright, for that. Most of the time, they're not. You are just going to appear in the scene. And as the actor, it is your responsibility to go, where did I come from? What were my relationships before I got here? And that's your moment before. And I don't ask my actors that, but when I don't believe what they're doing, I'm gonna go, what's your moment before? And most of the time they hadn't thought about it. And I go, great, could you come in with that? Changes the entire scene. So then they come through the door and they're pissed off. They come through the door and they're worried, they're frazzled. They come through the door and they're drunk. It changes the scene. So scenes don't begin in a vacuum. You come in with information with a previous state of being. I'm going to wrap that up for today, but are there, and I don't, alas, my chat is not up and I don't see the questions on the chat. So my apologies if I'm missing stuff in the chat. I'll try to remedy that for next time. But yes, questions for our last couple minutes together.
I just thought that the nuances were in the domain of the director.
Okay, let me pause there. The nuances are in the domain of the director. Theoretically, yes, 100%. And if you wrote that on a test for me, I would give that an A+. Here's what happens. I'm a director. I'm a director who's an acting teacher. I don't do this work for my actors because I don't have time. So what happens when I'm a director is I'm trying to solve a million problems. And one of my problems is there's a snowfall in this scene and it is not falling. And oh, my technical director tells me that, okay, Laura, we can do the snowfall. This is a real situation that I had. We can do the snowfall, but it's not going to be fluffy snow across the stage like you envision. There's going to be one little shaft of snow and it's going to be here. And then I go, well, now I have to reblock the whole freaking scene and I got to put my actor there so that the snow can fall on them. This is bullshit, but I have to do this. In those moments when I'm trying to solve the, oh my God, I don't get a fluffy white snowfall, I have a little stream of snow and I have to rework all my actors to stand under there, I'm not thinking about your backstory. I don't care where you just came from. I got bigger problems because I'm looking over the health of the entire story. And this is why I hire actors that I don't have to worry about. And when I get to cast my own show, because I used to do professional theater in Florida, and I got to pick who was there, not when I work with students and everybody needs a shot because everybody's special, right? But when I got to pick professional actors, I'm like, you are going to be no headache for me. You're going to come in having done all of your work, and I'm just going to have to, move you around. Then you go, I think you're a little more frustrated here with him. Could I see a little more fire? And that's the extent of what I'm going to give him because I know he's going to deliver for me. Because very rarely do I have time to sit down and talk to the actors about that. I have been the actor too with minimal direction. I've been the actor on set where they're trying to work out major technical things with like lighting and stuff. And I have had things where, like the last thing that I was on, I had to work out with my fellow actor, what do you want from me? Okay, here's what I want from you. Let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, because the director didn't have time. He had so many other problems. They were losing light, he was over budget, and basically that's when you got to deliver if you want to be hired back, and you got to fill in the blanks because they don't have time. I'm sure that you know all about this from your professional lives, right? Or even being home managing a family, which is also a professional life, right? All of these things. You had to do the thing that other people didn't have time to do, right? So it's a great question. So in theory, yes. In theory, the director's doing it, but having been the director who falls down on the job because I have other things, I'm so grateful when the actors pick it up. Does that make sense?
That's being mentioned with Meryl Streep touching herself.
That's Meryl Streep.
So those little intricacies.
Most of the time. Yeah, and the director might, who knows? The director might have said, yeah, or the script might say, she recently lost a lot of weight. I might have something like that, but it's Meryl Streep's decision to go, how does that manifest itself? Well, she's very insecure, so she's doing this because her weight used to be in her hips and she's making sure it's not there. That's Meryl Streep, no matter what she got. Because I don't think any director is going to have time to give you that level of detail. Yeah. Well, I probably have time for like one or two more thoughts or questions.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I sat my ass farther forward. And I'm gonna come in with voice for something more intellectual than a complaint.
Do you know, it's important to hear. You can't learn if you're not comfortable. So yeah, thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you for everyone who joined us on Zoom. We'll see you next time.
I didn't know I have,